Before he became the brash heavyweight with movie star looks and a mouth to match, David Haye was something far more dangerous. A wrecking machine at cruiserweight with one-punch knockout power and a world title collection to prove it. In just 22 fights, Haye unified the cruiserweight division, something only legends like Evander Holyfield had done before him. And he didn't do it quietly. He knocked people out cold, talked a storm, and then backed it up under the brightest lights. But Haye wasn't done. After conquering the cruiserweights, he did what most fighters fear. He moved up to heavyweight. Not for easy paydays, but to chase history. And somehow, he pulled it off. He beat giants, dropped former champions, and brought speed and flair to a division that had grown slow and stale. This is not just a countdown. It's the story of 5 nights when David Haye didn't just win, he dominated, silenced critics, and made boxing history. From hostile arenas in Paris to grudge matches that split the country, these are the moments that defined the Hayemaker's career. And by the end, you'll understand why, even now, he remains one of the most thrilling British fighters of the modern era. Stick around, because his best win might not be the one you're thinking of. Number 5, John Ruiz. On April 3rd, 2010, David Haye stepped into the ring at the Manchester Arena to make the first defense of his WBA heavyweight title. His opponent was John Ruiz, a seasoned American veteran and 2-time former heavyweight world champion. On paper, it looked like a stern test. Ruiz had shared the ring with the likes of Evander Holyfield, Roy Jones Jr., and James Toney, and had only been stopped once in his long career, way back in 1996. But in reality, this was a version of Ruiz already on the decline. Heading into the fight, Ruiz had lost twice to Nikolai Valuev and had come up short against Ruslan Chagayev. His tricky, often awkward style had earned him wins, sometimes controversially. But at 38 years old, his reflexes and durability were no longer what they once were. This would turn out to be the final bout of his 18-year professional career. From the opening bell, Haye made it clear this wouldn't go the distance. He floored Ruiz just seconds into the first round with a lightning-fast combination and dropped him again in the 5th and 6th. Ruiz kept coming forward, showing trademark toughness, but Haye's speed, angles, and power were simply too much. By round 9, Ruiz's corner had seen enough, and the referee waved it off. It was a statement win for Haye, his first defense at heavyweight, and a chance to show that his explosive style could translate against experienced, durable opposition. While Ruiz was clearly past his best, he was still a legitimate name, and Haye became only the second man to stop him inside the distance. It wasn't the most dangerous fight of Haye's career, but it was a commanding performance that kept his momentum rolling and reminded the heavyweight division that he wasn't just a former cruiserweight with big talk. He was a serious threat. Number 4, Dereck Chisora. By the time David Haye faced Dereck Chisora on July 14, 2012, this wasn't just another heavyweight bout. It was personal. The bad blood had been brewing for months, boiling over during an infamous brawl in Munich earlier that year. Haye, then semi-retired, clashed violently with Chisora at a post-fight press conference following Chisora's loss to Vitaly Klitschko. Punches were thrown, security was overrun, and the footage dominated headlines. The British Boxing Board of Control refused to sanction the fight, so it was licensed by the Luxembourg Boxing Federation instead. The result? A highly anticipated showdown at West Ham's Upton Park in front of 30,000 fans. At that point, Chisora had lost 3 of his last 4 fights, but he was no pushover. He'd gone the distance with Vitaly Klitschko, pushed Robert Helenius to a controversial split decision loss, and was widely respected for his toughness, chin, and relentless pressure. No one had come close to stopping him. Until Haye. The early rounds were cagey, with Chisora pressing forward and Haye picking his shots. Then, in round 5, Haye delivered a brutal reminder of why his right hand was feared in both divisions. A perfectly timed left hook right hand combination sent Chisora crashing to the canvas for the first knockdown of his career. Moments later, Haye closed the show with a clinical finishing sequence that dropped Chisora again and forced the referee to step in. Haye became the first man ever to stop Dereck Chisora, a feat that only 2 others, Tyson Fury and Dillian Whyte, have managed since. In a career filled with wars, Chisora had always been durable. That night, Haye was simply too fast, too sharp, and too precise. This wasn't just a revenge-fueled spectacle. It was a high-level performance under real pressure, and one of the most satisfying and violent wins of Haye's career. Number 3. Enzo Maccarinelli. On March 8, 2008, British boxing fans witnessed one of the most anticipated domestic clashes in years: David Haye versus Enzo Maccarinelli. This wasn't just a grudge match or a battle of rising stars. It was a high-stakes unification bout between two reigning world champions. Haye held the WBA and WBC cruiserweight titles. Maccarinelli came in with the WBO belt. The O2 Arena in London was sold out, and the buzz surrounding the fight was immense. Both men were known for their punching power. Haye had built a reputation as a knockout artist with explosive speed and athleticism, while Maccarinelli, the heavy-handed Welshman, brought 21 stoppages and 27 wins. Many believed Enzo had the edge in fundamentals and saw him as the man more likely to prevail if the fight turned tactical. He had tasted defeat just once before, back in 2000, and had gone nearly 8 years unbeaten heading into the bout. But from the opening bell, Haye looked the sharper man, quicker to the punch, more mobile, and brimming with confidence. He took command immediately, using his speed to beat Maccarinelli to the target. Then, early in the second round, Haye landed a thunderous right hand that rocked Enzo to his core. He followed up with a devastating flurry, forcing the referee to step in and wave it off. The fight was over in just 2 rounds. A major unification showdown ended in less than 6 minutes. It was a career-defining moment for David Haye. Not only did he unify 3 of the 4 major cruiserweight titles, but he did it by stopping a respected, durable world champion in brutal fashion. Against a man many believed could beat him, Haye left no doubt. He wasn't just the best cruiserweight in Britain. He was the best in the world. Number 2. Nikolai Valuev. On November 7, 2009, David Haye walked into the ring in Nuremberg, Germany, to face one of the most physically imposing heavyweights in boxing history, Nikolai Valuev. At 7 feet tall and weighing over 300 pounds, Valuev towered over the former cruiserweight champion, who came in at just over 210 pounds. The size disparity was comical. Haye looked like a middleweight, standing next to a literal giant. But this wasn't just a circus act. The WBA heavyweight title was on the line, and Haye was attempting to become only the second former cruiserweight champion after Evander Holyfield to capture a heavyweight crown. It was the classic David versus Goliath setup, but with real belts and real legacy on the line. Valuev, despite his freakish dimensions, had long been seen by some as a protected champion. A year earlier, he'd controversially scraped past a 46-year-old Evander Holyfield in a fight many felt he clearly lost. His size gave him advantages, but his limitations, particularly in mobility and technique, were clear to sharp-eyed critics. That said, going into the Haye fight, Valuev had only lost once in 51 fights and never been knocked down. He was still the reigning champion, and the fight was taking place in his backyard. Haye boxed a smart, disciplined fight. He used his speed and movement to stay off the ropes, circled away from danger, and picked his moments with quick, sharp right hands. He didn't try to out-muscle Valuev, he outthought him. In the final round, Haye landed a huge right hand that wobbled the giant, something no opponent had ever done so visibly. The bell saved Valuev from potential disaster, but the damage had been done. The judges scored it a majority decision for Haye, and with that, he became WBA heavyweight champion of the world. It wasn't the most thrilling fight, but it was a historic win, overcoming a near 100-pound weight disadvantage and almost a foot in height to become a 2-weight world champion. It would be the last time Nikolai Valuev ever fought. He retired after the loss, making Haye just the second man to ever defeat him, and the only man to seriously hurt him in the ring. For Haye, it was validation on the world stage. He had conquered the cruiserweight division, and now, against the odds, he had climbed. Number 1. Jean-Marc Mormeck. On November 10, 2007, David Haye traveled into hostile territory, fighting in front of a raucous French crowd in Paris to challenge Jean-Marc Mormeck for the WBA and WBC cruiserweight titles. At the time, Mormeck wasn't just a world champion. He was the man in the cruiserweight division. A 2-time world champion, he had reclaimed his belts after avenging his earlier loss to O'Neal Bell, and was seen as the division's most seasoned and battle-hardened fighter. Strong, experienced, and respected, Mormeck had shared the ring with top-level opposition and was fighting in his own backyard, where he had never lost. For Haye, it was a step into deep waters. This was only his 20th professional fight, and while his talent and power were undeniable, he had never fought anyone on Mormeck's level. Critics questioned his chin, his stamina, and whether he was ready for such a leap. But Haye had promised to not just win, but to do it with style. Early on, it looked like Mormeck might overwhelm him. In round 4, the Frenchman caught Haye with a heavy right hand and dropped him. The crowd erupted. Haye was on the canvas in the biggest fight of his life, and the narrative looked to be writing itself. But what followed was one of the most impressive comebacks of Haye's career. He regrouped, he adjusted, and then, in round 7, he struck. A fast, vicious combination stunned Mormeck, and Haye poured on the pressure. Mormeck reeled backwards into the ropes, taking flush shots without reply, until the referee jumped in to stop the fight. Haye had done it. In Mormeck's home city, against the division's number 1, after being knocked down, he rose to become a unified world champion. It wasn't just a win, it was a coronation. This was the moment that changed everything. It proved Haye could dig deep, survive adversity, and deliver under real pressure. And it was the launchpad for everything that came after, from unifying the cruiserweight division to conquering the heavyweights. Against a champion who had never been stopped at cruiserweight, Haye didn't just take the belts, he took them emphatically.